Hello and welcome, dear friends. Thank you for settling in and taking a deep, gentle breath as we begin our news update over last week's news. In this moment, let your mind relax while we carefully walk through these important stories. I'll be sharing detailed updates and insights, speaking slowly and calmly as we explore each topic together. Let's begin with a story that touches the very heart of our social safety net. Recent reports from Jeff Stein, the chief economics reporter for the Washington Post, have revealed that our Social Security Administration is facing a serious crisis. Over the past 10 days, their website has crashed not once but 4 times, and telephone service, a vital lifeline for many seniors who are not comfortable with the internet, has been disrupted. It appears that drastic budget cuts and a planned reduction in staff, with proposals to let go of up to 50% of Social Security workers, are creating a perfect storm of dysfunction. Imagine the distress of an 86-year-old who has relied on her monthly Social Security check to pay her bills, now having to navigate a system that is literally falling apart. These actions are part of a broader strategy, as our government seems determined to dismantle the programs that have helped reduce senior poverty from 40% to just 10% over decades. It's a deeply worrisome development that affects the most vulnerable among us, and it calls for our careful attention and collective resolve. Now, as we gently transition, let's consider another troubling update in the realm of justice. There are growing reports that lawyers are now hesitating to represent opponents of the Trump administration in a series of aggressive executive orders. President Trump has targeted law firms by barring their attorneys from accessing government buildings and restricting federal contracts to those firms that have not taken on his critics. This chilling tactic is undermining the fundamental right to legal representation, a cornerstone of our democracy. When even well-established firms feel compelled to withdraw, it sends a quiet but powerful message. Dissent is being stifled. As we take a moment to reflect on this, please know that the erosion of due process is something we must gently, yet urgently address, for it affects all of us who believe in fairness and accountability. Taking another careful breath, we move on to a story from Florida that has raised serious concerns about the rights of young workers. In recent legislative sessions, Florida's state legislature, with support from Governor Ron DeSantis, has advanced a bill that would relax child labor laws. Under this proposal, children as young as 14 could work overnight shifts, even on school days, filling jobs that have become available as employers search for workers to replace undocumented immigrants. This development contrasts sharply with progressive policies in other states, where efforts are made to ensure that all children receive nutritious school breakfast and lunch. While this measure is being touted as a solution to labor shortages, it risks exploiting our youth and compromising their safety and education. The numbers are stark, with a significant increase in child labor violations noted over recent years. This rollback on protections is not only alarming in its immediate impact on children, but also serves as a reminder of how policies can diverge so dramatically along ideological lines. We must consider the long-term costs when our future generations are placed in harm's way for the sake of economic expediency. As we settle our thoughts, let's now discuss an equally pressing matter: federal disaster relief. There is now a move within the Trump administration, as noted by DHS Secretary Chris Nome, to fundamentally reshape the role of FEMA. In a quiet yet decisive shift, the administration is planning to eliminate FEMA, transferring the responsibility for disaster response to state and local governments. Consider for a moment the weight of such a decision. Local authorities, already strapped for resources and operating with limited budgets, may find themselves unable to handle catastrophic events like hurricanes or earthquakes. FEMA was created precisely because state and local governments cannot always muster the financial or organizational capacity needed to protect people and rebuild communities. The fear is that without this federal safety net, disasters could become even more devastating, leaving communities isolated and unprepared. It's a challenging scenario that requires us to think deeply about the role of government in times of crisis and to demand that public safety remain a top priority. Now, I invite you to take another slow, deep breath as we move to an international front. An executive order has been issued that designates Mexican drug cartels as terrorist organizations. While, on the surface, this might seem like a law enforcement measure, there are deeper implications at play. This designation may serve as a pretext for an aggressive military posture, potentially paving the way for unilateral actions by President Trump against Mexico. The language in these orders is alarming. It hints at the possibility of airstrikes, drone strikes, and even the deployment of special forces on foreign soil, all without the usual checks and balances provided by Congress. This is not merely a tactical shift, it represents a profound escalation in rhetoric and intent. The idea that we might one day see a war with Mexico is deeply unsettling, and it underscores the risks inherent in unbridled executive power. It is important, then, to remain vigilant and to speak out against measures that threaten to militarize our foreign policy in ways that compromise both human rights and international law. Gently now, let's turn our attention to the plight of immigrants, a subject that touches many hearts. There is a concerning new proposal from the Trump administration that would require immigrants to disclose their social media handles when applying for green cards or citizenship. This measure is being presented as a way to monitor political views but in practice, it could be used to target and deport those who voice criticism of the administration. Recent cases, such as that of Mahmoud Khalil, a Columbia University student who played a role in pro-Palestinian protests, illustrate the potential dangers. Despite being a legal permanent resident, Mahmoud Khalil has faced detention and the threat of deportation. Similar stories have emerged where even well-intentioned immigrants who have contributed to our society for many years find themselves at risk simply for expressing their view. This policy, which threatens free speech and targets dissent, is a stark reminder of the fragility of our rights in the face of authoritarian impulses. We must remember that diversity of opinion is not only a strength, it is a right that underpins our democracy. Before we move to the final segment of our update, let us briefly touch on a collection of breaking economic and political news. The stock market has recently shown signs of severe stress, with consumer confidence plunging by over 30% since November, and expectations of rising unemployment reminiscent of the challenges seen during the 2009 subprime mortgage crisis. Even some of the wealthier sectors are now expressing concern, as only 26% expect to be better off next year. This economic uncertainty, compounded by tariffs that seem to be causing stagflation, a simultaneous rise in prices and unemployment, paints a picture of widespread financial instability. In addition, there are reports concerning Elon Musk's recent actions in Wisconsin, where he has been actively involved in a Supreme Court race. Musk has tweeted that he will hold a talk in Wisconsin with the promise of handing over checks for $1 million each to those who vote in the election. This form of election interference has raised alarms about the influence of corporate money on our democratic processes. Furthermore, a MAGA rapper known as Chef G, whose real name is Michael Williams, has recently been found guilty of attempted murder and sentenced to 5 years in prison. Alongside these events, an executive order has been signed targeting union contracts at federal agencies, a move that would terminate collective bargaining agreements for 700,000 union workers. Even food banks are not spared, as Trump's cancellation of 20 semi-truckloads of food deliveries to an Ohio food bank has resulted in millions of pounds of food going to waste. All these stories, when taken together, illustrate a pattern of policies that weaken public institutions and undermine the protections that many of us depend on daily. As we come to the end of this update, I want to leave you with a sense of calm resolve. The facts before us are indeed troubling, and the policies we've discussed are profoundly impactful on the lives of ordinary people. From the elderly who depend on Social Security, to children whose rights are at risk, to immigrants whose voices are being silenced, and to everyday workers facing economic uncertainty. These are not mere headlines. They are real issues that shape our communities and our futures. In these moments, it is natural to feel a deep concern and even sadness for the state of our society. Yet, please know that by staying informed and engaging with these stories, you are part of a collective movement that believes in justice, fairness, and the power of democracy. Our shared values, compassion, progress, and solidarity guide us in demanding accountability and working toward a system that truly serves all its people. Thank you for listening so attentively. I hope you found this update both informative and calming. Stay safe, keep breathing deeply, and remember that our commitment to progressive values and social justice is stronger when we come together with compassion and clarity. Until next time, take care and be well.